Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Dead Malls, your one-stop shop for the coziest mall documentaries and everything retail related. In tonight's episode, we continue our adventure out east and take an early morning visit to Marion, Ohio's very own Marion Center Mall, or Southland Mall, whichever you prefer. This mall, though, being in the dead mall capital of Ohio, seems to have escaped most dead mallers' radars. Despite being empty for over 20 years and still retaining some amazing, untouched 90s aesthetics, this absolute fever dream had me completely enthralled in its cozy charms, and this mall's backstory was far more interesting than anything I could have ever imagined. So before I spoil any more, I'd like to take a moment and shout out our winner, who was able to successfully guess the next mall. Very nice job, doesn't matter 757. If you'd like to have your chance of being shouted out in the next episode, stick around for the next challenge. Anyways, let's dive in here, take a look at, and tell the story of Marion, Ohio's very own backrooms level, and see how it was doing as of my visit in June of 2023. Now, when first walking into Marion Center, you'll see the mall's only life. It may have been right around opening, but that still doesn't excuse the fact that this mall literally has 0 stores open in its midway. This Hollywood Nails on the right is the only operating business aside from the theater, but this entryway at one point would have once contained a Dollar Tree and a jewelry store. In fact, as we get in here, see just how many old stores you can name based solely off of their iconic storefronts, which at this point we've all seen dozens of times duplicated in malls all across the US. Marion Center on the surface is just another one of these malls, but to so many people over the years, this mall was a part of their lives. So let's begin the story to find out just how this liminal playground came about. Marion Center Mall's story begins long ago under a much different name, in a much different Marion, Ohio. In 1960, Marion was just beginning to expand its retail drive to the outskirts. Back then, US Highway 23, the freeway, didn't exist. Residents instead primarily used the corridor of Marion-Waldo Road for their travels, so it seemed only logical that some sort of new shopping development would be built along this drag. In September of 1960, 3 Dayton, Ohio businessmen first proposed the idea for a large open-air shopping center for the South Side. Southland, as this project would become known, wouldn't pick up much steam early on, as the funding just wasn't there. However, this didn't stop other companies from getting their slice of the pie, as in 1962, grocery store Super Duper and department store Fashion Fair would be among the mall's first to open. But right next door, the future mall's first anchor was already breaking ground. As we explore the mall, I had to drop this absolute beat, which was just so fitting for the inviting yet completely dead mall, which while walking through just broke my heart because you can tell they're trying really hard to get people to come back in here, and it's just not working. On Thursday, July 28th, 1966, Sears, Roebuck & Company would open their shiny new doors as the third piece in the puzzle that was to be Southland. This new Sears was a revolutionary new store, especially for the residents of small-town Marion, who, before this, shopped almost exclusively in downtown. But the new mall would change all of that. A massive JCPenney store would anchor the other end, with 45 shops in between. In 1967, the Cafaro Company would take the plans head-on, funding the project. And just like that, an 18-month construction period began, cultivating what was once farmland on the south side of town into what was hoped to become a bustling shopping center. If anybody knows what this old eatery with the tiled theming is, please let me know down below. Every single storefront in this mall just threw off immaculate 90s vibes, and I was completely enthralled by it all. I was able to guess what most of them are, like that old Master Cuts there, but what was this old restaurant right here? Southland Mall officially opened its midway on Thursday, September 25th, 1969, as an open-air shopping center. The mall, featuring simple sidewalks, benches, trees, and other courtyard-esque aesthetics, would instantly be a hit, with stores such as Zales, Singer Shoes, Mary Jane, Southland Barbers, A&P Grocery, Fanny Farmer Candies, Parkland Hosiery, and Great Drug. Sears and Penny's of course sat on opposing ends, with the mall's lineup of junior anchor names dotting its corridors: Super Duper, Twin Fair, previously Fashion Fair, and GC Murphy. From day one, with these powerhouse names anchoring the mall, Southland's walkways would soon be filled with eager shoppers. Southland Cinema, the first theater in Marion in over 40 years, would too open its big screen for business on April 15, 1970, which has been the mall's long-running mainstay. Over the course of the early 1970s, outdoor Southland Mall thrived day to day, as the beautiful park-like mall was the perfect destination no matter the occasion when in Marion. But the men upstairs at Cafaro had even bigger plans to reveal, wanting to make the mall more all-inclusive. I think while in the mall during my visit, I saw maybe a grand total of 10 people in the structure, designed to once house thousands at a time. It's a pretty long fall from grace. I mean, when looking at pictures of Marion on historic aerials, it's clear to see that the mall was the place to be, as it was really just it and downtown. And now the mall is sort of just this forgotten relic on the south side. now being more of a big gray stain on the map. When I said earlier that you could tell that this mall is just trying hard to get people to come back in, this is what I meant. Even in the dire straits where there's not a store or a soul in sight, management still allows hanging out in this cool little hangout space. And what I'm guessing was a former Maurice's? I don't know, I might be wrong with that one, but it's so much better a use of the space than letting it sit empty. So between this and the community room and all of the little signs dotting the hallways asking if you need a place to gather, now you get what I meant when I said it was so inviting. Southland Mall's immediate success in the 1970s would see Cafaro plan even bigger additions for the structure. The newfound success of enclosed malls all over the country had them wanting to recreate such an environment. In the spring of 1977, work would begin to turn Southland Mall into a fully enclosed shopping center. Through this construction process, Super Duper would close their doors, becoming a Union department store, and local-based Sutton and Leitner would open their doors within Southland. But on Monday, April 17, 1978, a little over a year after renovations began, Southland Mall would officially reopen its doors as a true enclosed mall experience. Within its beautiful hallways, shoppers found planners, conversation areas, trees, skylights, and a dancing center court fountain. Illuminating all of these features were dozens and dozens of colorful stores, with some being Walden Books, GNC, Noble Shoes, Foot Locker, Musicland, Radio Shack, The Tilt Arcade, and Foxmore Casuals. Once again, the mall's charming new atmosphere would recapture its residents' love. Southland Cinemas would be expanded to 4 screens in 1980, and through the rest of the 80s, the mall enjoyed moderate success. But in the newer age of retail, a changing demographic, and the city's retail push moving towards the east side along the new freeway, would seriously begin to hamper the mall's growth. No longer was Marion Waldo Road the primary southerly artery for the city. US 23 zipped travelers right around town, completely avoiding Southland, and soon enough strip malls and other big box developments would sprout up in these new retail areas on the east side. In 1982, Twin Fair would close their doors, subdividing the space into several new mall stores, and Union themselves would close soon after. G.C. Murphy, after going out of business, would too shutter their gates, with the massive new junior anchor space becoming the mall's new third anchor, Elder Beerman, in November of 1984. The late 80s were sort of the mall's last renaissance though, as most tenants' 20-year leases came due and many chose to leave the struggling mall for bigger and better malls elsewhere. In the 90s, Walmart and Meijer would become 2 brand new additions to these new retail developments on the east side. And Southland, for a new decade, was left emptier and emptier each day. Coming up here, you'll get to see a whole lineup of old 90s mall brands. Everything from a Foot Locker to a Hot Topic, Bath & Body Works, and even a KB Toys. And if you keep your eyes peeled across the hallway, you might even see an old 90s Sam Goody with its blue neon still up. Now, I wish I would have visited when the game shop was open, but I hope they still turn all those beautiful neons on, at least for sentimental's sake. Throughout the early 90s, Cafaro saw the sticky situation unfolding as vacancies began to plague the mall. Thankfully, instead of abandoning Southland like most companies would, Cafaro would seek out a massive overhaul renovation. And in October of 1995, Southland Mall would officially reopen its doors as the mall you see today. Gone were the planters, fountains, and conversation pits, and in was the beige and carpets. Several stores would either close up shop through this renovation, move to other parts of the mall, or remodel their storefronts. Elder Beerman would revamp theirs, bringing it up to the modern standard. But going forth, and after the excitement and dust had settled down, Southland was still the same old mall, struggling to fill its hallways. And for a new millennia, Southland would begin to lose even its largest and longest running names. JCPenney, after struggling to attract shoppers to their outdated store, would close their doors on January 25th, 2003. The space would, similar to Woodland's in the last episode, have a Stephen Barry's fill it from 2005 to 2008, but inside the mall, conditions worsened. In 2007, Cafaro would sell the mall to a company called Cabot Property Investments, who, aside from renaming the mall to Marion Center Mall, promised big changes to reinvent it, which just never came about. Name brands had almost completely dried up by 2009, and through the economic recession, tenants like Walden Books, KB Toys, Old Navy, Radio Shack, FYE, K Jewelers, Gadzooks, Bruno Brothers Pizza, and Babbage's would all close. And the silent hallways of a ghostly Marion Center Mall sat longing for those better days long gone. In July of 2016, Sears, the last original anchor, and really the last original name, closed their doors for good, leaving the mall after 50 years of service. And finally, in April of 2018, Elder Beerman, withered out by the Bonton bankruptcy, would too close their doors, leaving for good. Leaving Marion Center Mall in the state you see it today, a ghostly midway full of memories and the ghostly facades of brands once cherished by millions, now adored by no one but me. It was pretty surreal walking through here, and if you really enjoy dead malls and you're in the Ohio area, go check this place out, it's worth the drive. Joann Fabrics, one of the last mall brands still operating in a large junior anchor store, would shutter their doors in January of 2022. And aside from the nail place, the movie theater, and a few pop-up shops, the mall is completely empty and utterly dead, long forgotten by its residents. Marion Center, or Southland, was such a relaxing morning visit. I actually remember back when I filmed this in summer of 2023, and and just being terrified that one of the first malls in the morning I was gonna get chewed out by some sort of nasty security or something. But none of that ever happened, and instead the mall welcomed me with open arms. So as I drive around the backside here and we see the original 1979 facading, I want to thank you all so much for watching tonight's episode. If you enjoyed, consider subscribing as it helps me out so much, and if you'd like to support my adventures further, consider checking out the Patreon for even more sneak peeks and bonus content. Next week we'll be live at a mall of your choosing, but 2 weeks from now we'll be back once again, this time heading towards Lake Erie to see a giant 1960s mall sitting nearly abandoned and awaiting certain closure. Guess which mall we'll be at, and I'll shout you out in the next episode. But until then, have yourselves a lovely evening, and peace out guys. See you later.